a week ago he was still 4.5 pounds. So, yeah.
Our little grandson was, I think, 10 point something.
10 pounds.
Yeah, 2 weeks overdue.
Wow. Big bruiser, big guy. I'm Moish. I'm so sorry for not calling last night.
How's your grandson?
I got so caught up.
Great.
Yeah.
The first was,
Yeah. We'll call it.
about seating at your table.
she was early, but,
The politicians take them off and separate them.
Mark.
I broke them all up.
Couldn't Mark Friedman,
Because I
so
couldn't
this
make
son,
it
obviously
work.
had a boy, you haven't shown him off it tonight.
With you and all that at one
Tree
table.
Mac clan is getting big.
Who had a baby?
The grandkid.
Avi
How's
Friedman.
that one?
Oh, Mazel
Yeah,
Tov.
no, couldn't, so.
Very nice. Very nice.
What was?
Well, it was pretty. Saw a bunch of Toronto people there also. We stayed in Airbnb in Verona for a while, and then we went to Renana to an Airbnb. Little kind of investor session.
Okay. All right, so let us continue. We were talking about the partnership. The two guys are partners. They partners in a company, and they and each one has his own car. So one of the partners wants to he uses his car to schlep some of the merchandise, and he wants to be able to take that from the company account, like to be compensated for that. Or, so, yachol liton hashutaf hasheni, shegam ken hu yachol lahavi et haschar berichbo, v'lachen yesh lo litol mimachatzi schar ha'ovala, o yesh lo lekabel al ha'ovalas haschara kepol bato. So the question is, he's asking it as a question. What is the status? What if the other partner says, I don't think you should take any money from the corporate account for being compensated for using your car, because I could also bring the stuff in my car. So therefore, just take, we'll just split the profits from the sale of the merchandise. Or does the partner who did the work on that job have a right to take additional compensation for his extra time? So he says,
Very healthy relationship partners now. I understand the car was a corporate car?
no. It's two guys.
So he just did more work to make the deal happen.
Yeah, right.
It's not like a question.
Why?
Because, in a partnership, different people do different things and they bring different things to the table. And
Right.
What
Right.
is like?
So it may not be a very healthy partnership, because if this question is being asked, but the question is, what is you definitely see that there's two sides to this. On the one hand, the guy expended his own resources, the use of his car, the wear and tear, the mileage, and so forth, to be able to schlep this item.
So that's a fair question.
Okay.
Should be able to compensate.
But on the other hand, the other partner says, well, you could have used my car, or I could have driven just as easily. So
This comes up all the time, partnership agreements and things like that. Generally, it's a question of consent, right? You try to work it out as consent. But if they don't agree, and they haven't agreed before the partnership starts, guy probably has a good time now. He shouldn't deduct it if I don't agree. Oh,
yeah.
I think that's where it's at.
In my business, and where there's corporate cars and everyone gets an allowance based upon what they use it for. If your personal car is being used, then you should there's an allowance by law that you get X amount per kilometer and X amount towards wear and tear on the car. But if it's a corporate car, it belongs to the company. There's nothing to talk about.
No, this is not a corporate car.
It's not. But I'm saying, so it's the first one, that there is an allowance given to by law. That revenue can allowance is like 58 cents.
That's the write-off for taxes. It's not to assign.
But it's also, that's. Right, that means you can use the car as an expense for the business for business use.
not if the other partner says no.
So then if this has like,
Okay, so this is what the disagreement is about. Okay, and it's after the fact. It's not like we consulted each other in advance. So he says, "V'nira hagam shemitzad hahegyonut hayat tzarich lohodia l'shutfo al hava'at haschora berichbo." He says it seems that the author says that even though menschlichkeit would have demanded that you work this out in advance, and that the guy who's using his car should have notified the guy that I'm planning to use my car and I want to be compensated for it.
Compensated or cost, comes to make money, but this is more covering the cost.
So it's a couple of things. Number one, he wants to be compensated for the use of his car, and in other words, for the cost of using his car, whatever it is per mile, or he argues that I should also take an extra portion because of the extra effort that I put into it.
Two different things.
Yeah. So he says, "V'chaver gam ken yachal la'asos zos," and it's also true that the other partner was also willing and able to do the schlepping. Just that you decided, you took it upon yourself to do it. I could have done it also. Mikol makom kevin shikvartan esa kashutvus al richbo ve'viu lamakom atzarich. But now that it's after the fact, and the guy has already done the schlepping, no tel schar ha'hovala al shimush berichbo techila. He says then he is entitled to compensation for the use of his car, whatever the transportation costs are calculated to be. V'rak acher kach yechalku es harevach o es hahefsed, and then only afterwards can they split the profits after that expense is deducted. He says ve'ein lasheni ela tarumos al shutfo, and therefore the guy who claims that we should have spoken this out first because I could have used my car and I wouldn't have charged. He says, yes, you're right, you have tinus, but halachically the guy did put in is entitled to his expenses. Now, where does this come from? So we just got to open up a new packet because this is the last page of the last packet.
you have a situation with partnerships. You have one guy's the deal maker, the other one's the schlepper. So the one who's the deal maker say, listen, the deal wouldn't have happened if I didn't do it, and I should get 75% and you should get 25. Like, this can go on and on and on.
It can, right? You're 100% right, Mosh. Yeah, 100%.
The guy says, I'm on a closed budget. Buy suits.
Right. Right, like. I'm sensitive to this because I have a partner and we don't have these issues because it's.
So what is the source of this? He says, Ayin Lamarin Shulchan Aruch b'Choshen Mishpat, Ma shehisik mitshuvas harashba. He says he's quoting really the Shulchan Aruch in Siman Kuf Ayin Vav, Upasak b'Shulchano HaTohar, im echad mehashutfim ta'an esak hashutfas al behemto, o nasnu b'chanuso stam, no tel schar behemto o chanuso techila, ve'achar kach yichalku harevach ve'ha'efsid. So he writes that if one of the partners puts in added expenses, let's say using his own animal or storing things in his store, he's allowed to take compensation for his expenses, and only then do they split the profits of the merchandise. And it sounds like even if he didn't notify the other partner in advance, and it seems to be the case also that even if the other partner has his own animal that they could have used. He says, and let's say the partner who used his car or his animal didn't have the ability to notify his partner in advance because his partner was on a plane or whatever it was, and then he couldn't notify him. that certainly that's true. V'nira dehu adini matzi lo diu ein chiluk b'divrei marin kein nira lanias daiti. He says, so it seems to me, the author says, that there's no distinction whether you could have told him in advance or you didn't. Maybe from an ethical standpoint, you should have disclosed this to him in advance, but the fact that you didn't doesn't take away your rights to be able to be compensated for your expenses. Now, od hayanir mehalacha achriti b'morin l'dayek, sha'afim lo hodiyo notel b'schar moli b'shimush richbo mimasha pasak. I can bring you another proof, he says, because there's another psak in the Shulchan Aruch that says, shutav sheyared l'toch sedei hamishutaf va'avda chashav ki yared b'shus v'notel schar kedin aris. He says the Shulchan Aruch writes that if you and I own a field in partnership, and I, without even talking to you, I go to the field and I start working the field. So even though it's a jointly owned field, but if I did all of the work, I am entitled to compensation as a worker above and beyond the share of the profits of the field. Because he says, Uvashar Reva Cholkin, and the rest of the profits of the produce, we split. In other words, Moshe, I think you own a vineyard, right? You have a sharing. So let's say you own a vineyard with a guy who lives in Israel. Okay. So he could argue, well, look, I'm going to do all the work. You're sitting here, you're sitting at home in Canada. So I'm going to I want to get compensation for hiring the workers that you have that has to come out of the our joint bank account first, right? And that goes to me and whoever I have to pay. And then when we sell the grapes or we sell the wine, we'll split the profits after that. That's essentially what the argument is, right? That makes sense to you?
Yes.
Okay. The Hagam de Matzinu lechalek hakasav marin behemshech v'hu adin im misasek below rishus bedavar hamitaltel hamishutaf union sham. Okay, fine. Okay, but then in his final paragraph he says Eliyesh la'ayin b'hai dina shutvim shekanu schara v'lishneim yesh lahem rechav. Let's ask the following question: partners purchase merchandise. Each one has his own car or his own, pickup. V'yesh b'schar kedei shtei hovolot, and really you need to take 2 trips in order to schlep the merchandise. V'halach hashutav harishon v'hevi et haschara b'shtei pa'amim mibli lahodia l'shutav hasheni. So without consulting with his partner number 1 went ahead and made the 2 trips with his own pickup. L'chora matzitoin schar shel havala Aleph Magiali, Kishiyesh L'Shutaf Hasheni Poyol Sha'osa Hovolos Al Richbo. He says, what if the other partner says, why are you getting compensated for 2 schleps? I have someone who works for me who could have done one of the schleps while you do the other schlep. Okay? Inami Kishain Lo Poel V'chuli B'shtei Hovolos Magia Lo L'Shutaf Hasheni Kepoyol Batel V'tzarachiyim. That, in other words, it's not going to be so clear cut if you took it upon yourself to do the 2 trips without even discussing it with me first. Like you knew that I had a car, you knew that I even have a guy who works for me, who schleps for me. So I'm paying the guy anyway. Why are you entitled to compensation? So he says there are going to be certain situations where it's not going to be so clear cut.
Where it's unnecessary or unreasonable, is what the partnership law is.
Unnecessary or unreasonable.
So you
Okay.
wouldn't get compensated for those.
Yeah, but that could be subjective,
And
right?
it's facts, yeah, what's the facts?
Right.
So when it says Tzorachim, like where do you go from there?
Where do you go from there?
Yeah.
You probably have to take it to a Beis Din and let the Beis Din eyeball it and come up with some pishara. Like first of all, next time consult your partner.
Well, so Shora is not giving you an answer. Shora is just giving you a settlement. What would actually be the halacha and what would be the appropriate thing to do? Or there isn't, it has to be a judgment by each case.
So in a situation like that, like you heard from Marv, even the secular law is a little bit gray, right? it's got to be reasonable and necessary, right? So let's say the guy went above and beyond what he needed to do in order to get this merchandise. Let's say he had it overnighted when the truth is it could have waited 3 days.
3 day ground, right?
Yeah, and it would have cost us much less. So,
Does that come off of his profit because he spent more by doing it
Right.
overnight as opposed to?
exactly, right? So all of these issues, the question is, what is reasonable? What's the reason why the guy overnighted it? Okay, we're gonna have to stop here because we have davening at 6:30 today. So a Chodesh Tov, everybody, and a good Erev Shabbos. Okay, take care.